back a piece of history. We have that information on what their mission was set to do.
Plus, those details behind fun visit to Raglan Elementary School today. Wait until you see this group. We had a fun time.
WBRC Fox 6 News. First Alert Weather Extra starts now.
Hey, welcome into Weather Extra. Chief Meteorologist Wes Wyatt.
And meteorologist Tania Michelle here. Wes, you've had a busy day.
Hey, it was a bit. I know. I popped in around midday. I said, hey, I'm off to Raglan and had a great time. We'll be sharing some scenes. We had a great weather visit over there today. But, you know, that's a good thing about a week like this when the weather's calm. You know, sometimes when we have a lot of active weather, it's kind of tough to get out.
A little more
but,
busy, yeah.
Little
Did you get a chance to play your guitar, sing any songs?
Hey, I did. And you know what? The guitar was in tune. Didn't even have to tune. I just pulled the thing
There
out
you
and we
go.
just went to singing. And we did sing the chorus to Sweet Home Alabama. We always have to throw that in there. But yeah, I have some weather songs. And by the way, stand by on that. I'll have more news on that coming out. But
okay.
Wrote some weather songs and we sang along. But you know what? The kids were excited. We're all excited. We made it to Friday.
We sure did. Great week. It went kind of fast to me.
Yeah, it did. Well, I don't know. It didn't.
Well, maybe because it's not my Friday, but.
Well, yeah. And by the way, this weekend, do check in with Tania because we're tracking a tropical storm. Look at what's happening out here. We now have Ophelia that formed, and it was kind of a waiting game here. Is it going to be this system, or is it going to be the tropical wave that's out over the eastern Atlantic? And we're certainly going to be tracking both of these systems closely over the weekend. This thing's going to move north across the mid-Atlantic region. You can see there towards Richmond as it continues moving north towards Washington and into New York. It starts to slow down. So with all these populated cities here through the mid-Atlantic, flooding is going to be a big concern there as this moves north. But this stays well to the east of us. It may actually help to draw in some drier air. Matt was noting earlier today, we were discussing the possibility of maybe some more 50s on the map perhaps next couple of mornings for areas, especially East Alabama, with that flow pattern that's in place. But we're in the 80s right now. The big weather story this weekend, you can see all the rain staying back to the west for now. This will start to slide in our direction by early next week. But the big story for us, the hot weather. Look at these temperatures here. We're showing readings in the 80s. Ole Miss at Alabama. A lot of fans already at this moment rolling into T-Town. Be ready for the heat tomorrow afternoon. Now, it's going to be great for setting up the tailgate early tomorrow morning. And then for Auburn fans over at College Station, I mean, we are looking at the possibility of some of the record hottest kickoff weather ever for Kyle Field there at College Station. It is going to be extremely hot tomorrow afternoon. And Tania, you had a chance to actually check in with some of our team members from right there in East Texas.
Yeah, Wes, that's exactly right. I talked about how Auburn fans heading to Texas need to be prepared for this heat. Those feel-like temperatures in the triple digits. So I actually spoke with Chief Meteorologist Shell out there at KBTX, okay? He's going to talk about how you can prepare for the heat and just how hot it's going to be. You guys are dealing with some heat out there. We're talking high temperatures for the start of fall. Talk about how hot this weekend's going to be.
Well, and let me tell you, driving around town for the past 2 days, I've seen a lot of Auburn fans already here. We've been yelling War Eagle out the window all weekend. So, yeah, you know, here's the deal. It's an 11 a.m. kick at Kyle Field, which at 11 a.m., there's not a lot of shade to be had. So it's going to be a day where, you know, kickoff temperature is 90 degrees. You guys know all about humidity, right? Same thing. We got the Gulf of Mexico breathing on us. So we've got dew point temperatures in the 70s. So I think as the game is beginning in the shade, it'll feel like about 95, 96 degrees. It's already going to feel like 100 by the second quarter. And we think by the fourth quarter, temperatures are probably in the upper 90s by that point. Heat index about 105, 106. But then you've got the sun that's beating down on everybody. So that's probably going to make it feel more like about 115 for, you know, the second half of the game. And then you've got 100,000 of us just kind of all hugging in there and, you know, enjoying the game together. So it's going to be sweaty, to say the least.
Man, okay, so we have some Auburn fans are going to be down there in College Station getting ready for a big game versus Texas A&M. How can they prepare for this heat? I mean, I know they're used to it, but at this time of year, it's like, How do we get them as prepared as possible?
So hydrate starting today, right? If you're going to be out there, what Kyle Field lets you bring in one closed bottle of water, so that could be a tiny 20 ounce. But I would suggest going and grabbing a gallon. You can bring up to a gallon of water in as long as it's still sealed. And then when you down that gallon of water, there are free refill stations in the concourse areas. So just drink as much water as you can. And let me tell you, I know you guys have great tail. I haven't had a chance to go out there to tailgate. I want to make it to the stadium one day. We've got a really good tailgate set up, and one of my favorite things in the world is breakfast at Kyle. But maybe for like every non-water, maybe drink like 2 glasses of water in between, just to keep the ratio even.
Well, I just wanted to tell you guys that Shell personally told me that if you find him, he's got a beer for you and some treats. So find him, find his tailgate booth. He'll be waiting there to meet you and shake your hand. But once again, the Auburn and Texas A&M game kicks off at 11 a.m. tomorrow. Wes?
Yeah, I want to thank Shell Winkley for joining us here on Weather Extra from our station there at College Station, Texas. It is going to be a hot one there. Well, today with all the nice weather, what better than to get out on the road, right, and go for a weather visit. I had a great time today. Roll down the windows and cruise right on into St. Clair County today, and had a great weather visit. I'll be sharing some video there coming up. There we go. Yeah, you can see all the kiddos there having a good time, and let me tell you what was actually happening here. We were talking about the sound of thunder. So I said, hey, let's make the sound of thunder, Tania. So we all started stomping, and I tell you what, they did a great job. But the big thing is when I arrived today, the security was waiting on me in a golf cart, and they drove me into the gym on a golf cart today. Talk about an intro! It was one of the coolest intros I've ever had. I mean, I go in on the cart, and all the kids are screaming. It was a fun time. But that's Mr. Ford, one of the teachers there. He was actually presenting the 7-day forecast. Actually, it's an older graphic, by the way, but we have a lot of fun letting the kids get up and practice with the weather graphics. But we sing weather songs, do weather experiments. We just have so much fun on these school visits. And teachers, if you want to set up a school visit, we have the largest weather team in Alabama. We can set that up for you. You just go to our website at WBRC.com and look for weather in the classroom. All right, we're just getting started. We're going to talk a lot more about the 7-day forecast, those rain chances. We've got this week's science and segment that we're going to be discussing, and we're going to check back in with Tania as we continue right here on First Alert Weather Extra. All right. Welcome back to First Alert Weather Extra. I'm Chief Meteorologist Wes Wyatt. Tourists hoping for a rare chance to view a rock formation on the Mississippi River, well, may be a little disappointed. Severe drought has lowered water levels near a community in Missouri where Tower Rock stands in the Mississippi River. It's normally only able to be reached by boat, but for the second year in a row, enough ground is exposed for people to actually walk to it. It happened originally in October 2022, but before tourists can visit, the Missouri Conservation Department is warning them to wait while construction near the site is finished. And, we've seen both sides of this. We've seen the drought, and we have certainly seen the flooding along that river.
Well, coming up, still ahead on First Alert Weather Extra, meteorologist, probably me or Wes, brings you a special outer space segment that you want to stick around for.
And the unique way California is preparing to fight wildfires. You are watching Weather Extra.
Welcome back to First Alert Weather Extra. I'm First Alert meteorologist Tania Michelle, and it's time to talk about the weekend. It's going to be one for the books, especially the science books, as a NASA mission prepares to bring back a one-of-a-kind artifact. Meteorologist Lauren Linehan has more.
After 7 years in space and a nail-biting maneuver to collect samples, NASA's first sample return mission from an asteroid is just days away from here on Earth. And get this, it traveled nearly 3.9 billion miles. To tell us more about the importance of this mission, we now bring in planetary expert from NASA, Jada Arney. Jada, thank you so much for joining us here this morning.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
Well, I wanted to ask you a couple of questions about the mission. If you could tell us more about this asteroid, the mission exactly, and why do we want to study asteroids in general? What's the importance of that?
Yeah, well, asteroids are small, but they are mighty and they are large in number. We think of them as the primordial building blocks from the formation of our solar system. And so we want to go to one, Bennu in particular, to learn more. So OSIRIS-REx blasted off in September of 2016. It took 2 years to get to the asteroid. It spent an additional 2 years surveying the asteroid to better figure out where the best possible site to collect the sample was. It collected that sample in October of 2020, and now this Sunday, it's finally bringing that sample home.
That's incredible. And as I understand, this sample will be dropped off in Utah. But what are you all hoping to learn from this sample?
Well, these are sort of like time capsules that record the very early history of our solar system. And so we're hoping to learn more about the origins of the planets in our solar system, including the planet Earth.
Well, were there any surprises about the asteroid and what you have learned thus far from the mission?
Well, one of the most amazing things about this asteroid was how rugged the terrain is. Scientists expected it to be a relatively smooth surface, kind of like sand on a beach. But instead, we discovered boulders as big as houses. So this is an extremely rough terrain. It was quite the amazing engineering feat to figure out a place on the asteroid where we could safely collect a sample and deliver it home.
And I imagine this was a challenging mission because you're not actually going to the asteroid yourself. What were some of those challenges?
Well, one of the challenges is that the surface of the asteroid was not like what we expected. In fact, the surface of the asteroid is really rugged and rubble pile-like. It's kind of like if you were to stand on it, it'd be similar to standing on the top of a children's ball pit. You would just sink into it. And so the sample collection arm actually started to sink into the asteroid when it started to collect its samples, and thrusters had to be fired to back it away.
Wow, that's incredible. Well, we will certainly be watching as it makes its landing on Sunday. Jada, thank you so much for joining us today and help us learn more about Beyond the Atmosphere.
Thank you so much.
And once again, the asteroid is set to make landfall this Sunday. Well, in California, new artificial intelligence camera technology has been implemented to help monitor wildfires. Take a look at this. We brought you the story yesterday about hazy conditions in the Bay Area due to wildfires in Northern California, which prompted California Fire to reach peak staffing to respond to calls. This allowed their command center to help beta test and launch the statewide Alert California network, which also trains the new remote-controlled cameras to spot potential fires by using artificial intelligence.
We now have the ability of AI, so the artificial intelligence. So what it does is it picks up anomalies. So it'll pick up something that it thinks is smoke. It could be fog, it could be a light. So we're teaching it. So we're telling, no, that's not smoke, that is this. So it learns.
And even though they are testing this new equipment, Cal Fires will still be on alert for these fires as they continue to contain it. Well, for this week's installment of Mets Around the World, we traveled to Denver, Colorado to meet meteorologist Andrew Markowitz, where he works in a special kind of meteorology. Interesting story. Andrew is not just any meteorologist, he's an energy meteorologist. Andrew, tell us what an energy meteorologist does and what that exactly means.
Yeah, absolutely. So, when people think of the term meteorologist, I think the first inclination is to think somebody who's on TV, someone who works for the National Weather Service, but actually there's a lot more you can do with that degree. So being in the energy sector, the most intuitive way to think about it is weather is the number one driver of energy demand. So if you have a really hot day or a really cold day, more people are going to be turning on their heat, turning on their ACs. So that's going to be driving up demand and in turn going to be driving up prices. So there's kind of two different perspectives with this that I've worked with. So there's the perspective of working with traders. The traders, their goal is to kind of make money on the commodities market by taking advantage of discrepancies with our expectations, or at least their expectations, versus what the market says. So for example, if the market thinks it's going to be really hot, but we don't think it's going to be quite as hot, we think prices are going to be lower, that might be an opportunity for that person to sell. Whereas vice versa, if we can see a cold outbreak or something coming weeks in advance, that person can kind of buy in at the minimum and hope that the price goes up. So that's kind of one way to look at it. The other perspective is from the utility company, where, yeah, your main goal here is to try to pinpoint what your demand is going to be, and your goal is to try to make sure the lights stay on and try to do whatever you can to try to reach it. So you're calculating what the demand is going to be, but also, do you have enough resources to adequately meet that? So that can be done through things like coal-fired plants, but now more recently, there's a lot more wind and solar. So a lot of it is a puzzle of all of these things going together, but it's basically, how does the weather drive these energy markets? And that's something I've always found really interesting.
Also really interesting, Andrew graduated from Penn State University in 2019 with not only just degrees in meteorology, but also in energy business and finance. Well, when we return, how one tiny fruit could potentially predict how much snowfall one state could see this winter. But first, here's a look at our First Alert Sky Vision in downtown Tuscaloosa.
How about this view over Tuscaloosa today? Hey, our very own J.P. Dice had a flyover in T-Town, flying over Bryant-Denny Stadium, and I can already you can see all the television trucks there, and that's behind Rammer Jammers right there. You can see folks getting ready, though. It is going to be a big day in Tuscaloosa. Game tomorrow. It's 82 right now. We're at 81 in Birmingham, 82, and Anniston 70 degrees right now for us here in Coleman. All right, first alert. What's next? The next big thing for us. Well, we've got the tropical system Ophelia that has formed. Hot afternoons on the way. This is it. I mean, we are counting down to the arrival of fall. Last day of summer. In the morning at 1:49 a.m. is the autumnal equinox. So when you step outside in the morning, you can say hello fall. But the afternoon, it's going to feel like summertime. That's the way it works around here. Showers still in the forecast for next week. Could see a little bit of rainfall. Let's talk about Ophelia. It's now borderline. It's almost a hurricane. I mean, winds at 70. We get the next advisory. There's a chance this might become a hurricane right before it makes landfall. I was looking at the radar and satellite data, and it certainly looks like the center's becoming the eye is sort of becoming exposed, the center of circulation. But what's troubling is as this moves north, I mean, it's going to bring a lot of rain across North Carolina. But look at Saturday. It's like it takes it several days just to make it to Washington and New York. It slows down, and that's what you don't want to see there with this. That's going to bring some significant rainfall as that system moves north, taking all that tropical moisture with it there across the mid-Atlantic. There is another system. We were thinking that this one might become Ophelia, but now since the system off the East Coast took that name, next name on the list is Philippe. If this does develop, 90% chance it's going to develop as this moves on to the west direction. So we're watching that system. Again, out the door tomorrow morning, we're expecting temperatures down into the 60s. It looks like for the afternoon, we'll have high temperatures again reaching into the 80s. Again, it is going to be very hot out there for later in the day. Plan for those afternoons to be on the steamy side. And again, rain returns next week. Could see some scattered showers coming back. It's not a washout. As you can see, this is the GFS model. The European model is a bit more favorable as far as the rain, especially around next Wednesday and Thursday, shows a trough axis through here, which will generate some more clouds and also scattered showers. So that is why, as we go beyond the weekend and into next week, we have a 30 to 40% chance of rain. We have that first alert for showers, high temperatures in the mid-80s with overnight low temperatures in the 60s. And we've all heard about the old wives' tales about the weather, like if a body part hurts before it rains, that means it's going to storm. If it thunders, I always had a viewer that would call me and she would always say, if it thunders in February, it's going to frost in late April. Have you ever heard that one? Well, have you ever heard the one about a fruit being able to pick out a snowy winter? You've heard about the persimmon, right? Well, here's a story.
Just plop it in your mouth and you can kind of suck the pulp off the seed. Kind of like a pawpaw a little bit in that way. It's actually really good.
Kind of orange dreamsicle tasting, but it's not the fruit that has us sitting down with Missouri Botanical Garden Associate Scientist Emily Werchewski.
I study persimmon, specifically our native persimmon that grows here in Missouri.
She is an expert, but the legend surrounding the persimmon seed eludes her.
There's this great folklore about persimmons, which is that if you cut into one of these seeds, it will help you predict what the coming winter will be like.
It's not spelled out inside.
You look at the shape of it, and it can look either like a knife, a spoon, or a fork.
So what shape did you see in there? Fork, knife, spoon? Well, I know what I saw, and it links to something that we have to scoop a lot of: snow.
It is very clearly a spoon shape.
Emily cut into more, all spoons.
The spoon, you might, it's kind of obvious, is like a shovel. So they say if you see a spoon, it'll be snowy winter. If you see a knife, it's supposed to represent cutting winds and cold. And if it's a fork, it's supposed to be kind of bountiful, so maybe a warmer winter that's more pleasant.
There could be a scientific link to seed shape and winter predictions, but for now, it is just a bit of fun.
I feel like you need a million persimmons for them to be.
Yes.
Well, I got to tell you, last year I shared a photo of last year's persimmon seed. It suggested snow.
Okay.
Didn't happen for us.
Oh. Well, try again.
But it was, we had that one cold snap around Christmas time. But we'll be watching tonight, Tania, that rain chance in the next week. Of course, kickoff forecast, updates on the tropics. That's on your side tonight. Join us first at 9.